It has come to my attention that what seems to be every single Tool fan gets feverishly angry when I rank the Tool albums, so I thought I would give them something to get angry about. Today, I am going to rank every singular last Tool song in order of release, placing them on this beautiful tier list here. Granted, this is all based on personal impact, so expect your list to differ from mine. This does not bother me, but I imagine there is literal smoke blowing out of your ears at the mere thought of your favorite song not being my favorite song. I look forward to your comments. Keep in mind, I'm not going to rank the interludes, as I don't really think it's fair to rank Lateralus with the sound of Maynard's cat gently being squeezed played in reverse. Without further ado, let's get started with Tool's first EP, Opiate. Let's go. Sweat. This track right here is a textbook good song. It's honestly much better than good, but we're ranking Tool. Keep that in mind. The best is yet to come. You and I both know that. #1 Sweat fan. Solid track, but you can tell the band is young here. Vocals still incredible, but not matching the greatness that Maynard will later produce. Suffers from being their earliest work, like most tracks on this record. Hush. Everything I said about Sweat, but a little bit worse. Lyrically, a little edgier than I prefer my Tool tracks, going into the decent tier. Part of Me. One of my favorite songs on this EP, although that means very little. There's only 6 songs. Feels a little more Tool-like lyrically, and the riffs are incredible. Right above Sweat in the OK tier. Cold and Ugly. Uh-oh. Our first meh song. The song just doesn't do much for me. There's not really too much else to say. Jerk Off. Oh fuck. This is Tool. This sounds like Tool. This feels like Tool. Addictive riff, ridiculous drums, and Maynard's vocal range starting to see some light. Good track. Opiate. The title track and our first glimpse at Tool's iconic style of music. An 8-minute track, incredibly dark lyrics tearing down religion. The whole shebang. Top of really good for me. Fans of Maynard's dick. The song, I mean. I did not forget about you. It wasn't on the tier list I'm using, so if it was, I would firmly plant that shit in the bad song tier. Here's how our list is looking now. Hopefully you aren't too angry yet, because I fear we are going to tread into much murkier waters very soon. On to Undertow. Intolerance. Not my favorite song on the record here. This album is when Tool starts to, quote, find their sound, although that makes me sound incredibly pretentious. This song is good. It's got a solid riff, but I'm not the biggest fan of the lyricism here. Going into the OK tier, right above Part of Me. Prison Intercourse, incredible track, super dark lyricism, super addictive riffs. Maynard starting to find his range with this track. Our first amazing tier song. Not quite a masterpiece though. Now with what's to come on future records. Sober, what many describe as the Tool song. Certainly their most iconic song and the one your uncle probably heard on the radio. Lyrically beautiful, profound, and downright poetic. The peak of Paul Diamore's bass, if you were to ask me. You really come to see Maynard's talent as a vocalist first on this song. This is the man we hear on Lateralus and Ænima. Ænima? Fuck you. Easily masterpiece track. Bottom, my personal favorite track on this record, although the tier list won't reflect that. Objectively, it's not as jaw-dropping as a track like Sober, but I really like the lyricism here. A little edgy, but a little edginess never hurt anybody. The Henry Rollins monologue at the end, an absolutely beautiful addition to the track. Not to mention a top 5 Maynard scream at the end of this track. Incredible. Top of amazing for me. Crawl Away. Incredible bass line on this track, but I have very little else to say. Lyrically, it's alright. Vocally, it's alright. Textbook OK tier, right behind Intolerance. Swamp Song, another incredible bass line on this track, but I have a little more to say this time. I saw this song live for the first time in 12 years, so that was pretty neat. That's actually all I have to say. Another textbook OK song, right above its predecessor. Undertow, the title track. I do enjoy the lyricism here. I think the guitar sounds incredible here, and I really like the end of this track. The slowed down instrumentation really aids the conclusion of this track. Back of good for me. 4 Degrees, one of the stranger sounding tracks on this record, but I really like the change of pace. I don't really know what the hell is going on at the beginning of this track, but I like it. Great guitar riffs, great drums, pretty good track. Top of OK for me. Flood, second longest track on the record, and to be honest, I can really feel the length. Wait. It feels long, which I can't say about a lot of Tool tracks. A song I can say I feel overstays its welcome a little bit. The 3-minute intro doesn't really help that. Top of decent. Disgustipated. This is what non-Tool fans assume all Tool music is. This is the worst song in their catalog, and I don't think it's very close. A song that makes me actively hurt when I listen to it. That high-pitched noise present throughout the entire second half of this song makes it borderline unlistenable for me. Utterly awful. Here's another glance at our list. Hopefully nothing too polarizing so far, except for all 3 Disgustipated fans who will race to tell me I'm too ignorant to understand it. On to Ænima. Stinkfist. Oh fuck, is this song good. Lyrically, a masterpiece. The vocals, masterfully done. The riffs, ridiculously good. The drums, simple for Tool's standard, but incredible. Top of masterpiece for me. Eulogy. I'm not as big of a Eulogy fan as the average person. Well, the average Tool fan. I think the intro overstays its welcome a little bit, but once it gets going, man, is this song magical. The ending of this song, downright legendary. Stellar track, one of the greats for sure. Back of amazing for me. My 6th or even my 7th sense tells me someone is angry in the comments about that. H, this here is Tool. Lyrically, one of my favorite tracks in their catalog. The vocals, masterfully done. Everybody gets a round of applause from me here. Top of amazing with a potential audible into the back of masterpiece. I'm gonna think on that. 46 and 2, I love this track. You love this track. Your uncle loves this track. Let's skip the foreplay. God tier song, and our first so far, but certainly not our last. Escort with a Willie. On the contrary from our last track, I think this is one of the band's weaker tracks. Not in a vacuum, but in the context of this album, it's just not their best work. With tracks from Opiate, I can attribute their lack in quality to the age of the band. With this track, I can't be as kind. Killer instrumentation, though. Top of okay for me. Jimmy. Absolutely killer guitar on this track. I couldn't think of a cooler way to say that. Lyrically profound, vocally solid, just a good song. This track has everything that makes a good song, but something's missing. I don't actually know what that is, but top of good for me. Die Eier von Satan. Silly little German track time. Funny on the first listen. Even funnier when you find out it's a weed cookie recipe, but it loses its charm the more I listen to it. When I listen to this album top to bottom, this is a song I often skip, along with the interlude of a baby crying for a minute and a half. Back of meh. Push It. One of my personal favorite tracks here. Incredibly addictive riff. I would argue the peak of Maynard's vocal range being displayed right here on this track, especially on the Salival live version. Incredibly beautiful lyricism here as well. More beautiful than the average Tool track. More poetic than raw, which I think is very refreshing on this record. Fuck do I love this song. A 10-minute song that doesn't feel half its length. Top of God tier for me. Ænima, the title track, and another masterclass song. If you somehow survive the minute-and-a-half interlude of a baby crying prior to this track, you are rewarded with perhaps the most iconic opening to any Tool track. It's masterfully written, it's masterfully performed, it's just an incredible song. Another incredible vocal performance from Maynard here, especially towards the end of this track. Tippity top of masterpiece for me. Third Eye, a tricky song for me to rank, to be honest with you. I really like this song a lot. The Bill Hicks introduction, absolutely incredible, but at times I feel this track does slightly overstay its welcome. Still an absolutely mesmerizing track though, right behind H in amazing. On to Lateralus. I should preface this with the fact that Lateralus is my favorite album of all time. Any band. Let's get started. The Grudge. This song is genuinely indescribable. The guitar riff, top-notch. The drums, top-notch. The bass, top-notch. The greatest Maynard scream of all time to conclude this track. Incredibly profound lyricism. A perfect tone setter for the rest of this album. Easily God tier, right above 46 and 2. The Patient. Another one of my personal favorites. Absolutely incredible build-up on this track into one of the greatest drops of all time. I love this song. I love the bass line. I love the lyricism. I love everything here. Masterpiece tier, right above Sober. Schism. Another Tool song your uncle might know. A radio classic, if you would. One of the greatest bass lines in music as a whole, I would argue. Lyrically, very profound, but very deep. Very layered. I love it. You love it. Right behind Stinkfist in the masterpiece tier. Parabola, I'm not going to separate parable and parabola. I think that would be silly. This is one of my favorite songs ever written. I would describe the transition between these tracks as genuinely euphoric, transcendental, beautiful lyrics, a genuinely inspirational song, top of God tier, although it won't hold that title for very long. Ticks and Leech is my least favorite song on this record, by far, I would say. Although it does include the most ridiculous drum performance I've ever heard in my entire life. I don't know. The shit this mutant does on this track is genuinely otherworldly. Lyrically, almost completely empty, though. The random interlude in the middle of the track to spite their record label? Unnecessary. Still can be fun to listen to, though. Right above 4 degrees in the OK tier. Lateralus, the title track, and my pick for the greatest song ever written. I don't want to talk about the math. I don't want to talk about the Fibonacci sequence. This song is genuinely so ridiculously satisfying to listen to. Lyrically, mesmerizing, inspirational. Such inspirational lyrics backed by ridiculous instrumentation, concluded with the most iconic line in any Tool song. A line so powerful it's chanted by fans alike. Spiral out. Top of God tier where it will stay for the rest of this video. Disposition. I'm not really sure what to do here, to be honest with you. In a vacuum, it's not the best song. It's very simple, very calming. Outside of the vacuum, however, in the world that we live in, this song is great and perfectly sets up the next track, but that's all it really does. I can't rank it too high for that. Right above Undertow in the good tier. Reflection, a song I can say has genuinely changed my life. I'll be the first to admit, however, that this song does drag just a little bit. The intro slightly overstays its welcome, in my opinion. Lyrically, phenomenal. A whole story told in just one song. I love it, but I recognize its faults. Top of really good for me. I'm calling Triad an interlude. You can't do anything about it. Let's take another glance at our list. I'm feeling pretty confident still. I decided to move Bottom and Prison Intercourse down to the really good tier. Sorry. On to 10,000 Days. Vicarious. This song fucks. That's all I really have to say. My favorite start to any Tool song. It's absolutely iconic. Right above The Grudge in God tier, although they are completely interchangeable for me. Jam By. I do not care if I said the name wrong. You are welcome to correct me, but I will make no changes. It's a great song. The riffs here, phenomenal. The lyricism, very good. I'm gonna slide this one into the top of amazing, right above H. Wings for Marie. I'm gonna do both parts in one here. Absolutely incredible track. Lyrically, absolutely heartbreaking. The instrumentation remains on point here, but I must admit, this song does drag a little teeny tiny bit. 17 minutes is a damn long time. Right above Bottom in the amazing tier. The Pot. This is where I believe I will receive the most hate comments. I do not love this song as much as the average Joe. It's great, don't get me wrong, but I don't really like Maynard's high-pitched vocals as much as everyone else seems to. Not the most profound track lyrically, but fuck does this song have some absolutely absurd bass. Textbook really good for me. Right above Reflection. Rosetta Stoned. You either love this song or you hate this song. I am happy to admit that I am a lover here. This is another song that I can't really compliment lyrically, but it just absolutely fucks. Right above Schism for me in the masterpiece tier. Intention, a skipper for me. The track serves to set up the next song, and I feel it does a really good job of doing that. In a vacuum, it's not the greatest though. I'm gonna get a strong decent from me right above Flood. Right into another hard one for me to rank. It's a song that I feel beautifully wraps up this record in an almost ridiculous way. The lyrics here are absolutely mesmerizing, perhaps the best in their entire catalog. With that level of lyricism, I do feel that the instrumentation does lack just a little bit on this song, at least in the first half. It's a little slow for me, especially for a Tool song. Really good, right above Opiate. Let's dive into the final record, Fear Inoculum. Fear Inoculum. I absolutely love the guitar on this track. I start off with that because that's all I really like on this track. You can really start to hear Maynard's age on this track, and to be honest, on this whole record. The lyricism is just as incredible as always, but it's certainly a song that I can again say I feel overstays its welcome. Good tier, right behind Jimmy. Ænima. My favorite song on this record. Please don't hurt me, Tempest fans. One of my favorite conclusions to any Tool track on this song right here. The lyricism remains consistent with the record, as do the vocals. It's just a slightly better Inoculum in my eyes. Right above Opiate in the really good tier. Invincible. I actually really like this song too, but it suffers from what I will now be calling the Inoculum syndrome, where every track feels and sounds very similar. I don't really have too much to say that I haven't already said about the other tracks. It's right behind Inoculum in the good tier for me. Descending, I would say the most grand-sounding song on this album. I like the lyricism on this track a bit more than I do the rest of this album, so I'll give it some points for that. This one right above Inoculum in the good tier. Culling Voices, the only track thus far on this record that I would say does not suffer from Inoculum syndrome. Sadly, this is actually not good news. It's my least favorite track on the record here. Drags on a lot for me, the build-up just doesn't really feel worth it. Going into the OK tier, right above Swamp Song. Tempest. The opening riff for this song feels exactly like it should. Exactly like a Tool track. The rest of this track, however, loses me just a little bit. I absolutely love the guitar throughout this track, but again, I'm left a little dissatisfied with Maynard's vocal performance. And believe me, I get it. The man was pushing 60 at the time. Still an absolutely incredible song, right behind Opiate in the really good tier. There we have it, my complete Tool song tier list ranking. I hope you enjoyed. I actually had a lot of fun making this one. If you like Tool, consider checking out some of my deep dives on the albums. If you don't like Tool, what the fuck are you doing here? Let me know in the comments where I went wrong and any other bands you'd like to see this style of video for. Thanks for watching. Peace.